All right, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the next keynote. Our speaker is Mr. P. Rajamanickam, CEO, Tessolve Semiconductor. A brief introduction before I invite him on stage. Rajamanickam founded Tessolve in 2003 with a vision to create a leading productionization company delivering high-volume manufactured products from physical silicon. He brings a unique mix of experience encompassing the entire chip development process, from managing product lines, running a manufacturing site, and building up startups. Ladies and gentlemen, please extend a very warm welcome this afternoon to Mr. P. Rajamanickam.
Good afternoon, everybody. The last time I was up here, I did a little skit. So this time around, it's not so exciting. And I don't have very exciting slides either. My presentation would be pretty much down to earth and some questions, right? I think in the morning we heard about where we were successful and where we were not. And as you know, I'm one of those guys looking into the manufacturing aspect of in India. So my theme today would be about hardware, right? I want to make a case for hardware and why it's relevant and what we could do and some thoughts about it. So just a quick story about our company as usual. We started as a test engineering company, and then we grew to about 2,000 people or so. We're close. The key thing is, one of the role model or mentor that I look at is TSMC, Morris Chang. He started the company in a backwaters kind of a place in Taiwan when there was no infrastructure, there was no ecosystem, and he built it to such a great company. And I always take that, it can be done. And I was talking to Wally this morning. We're all ex-TI guys, and I think TI guys can do it. So let me get into so is it hardware or hardware, right? So really, it is, if you look at a system, the hardware is the heart, right? And again, we heard a lot of talks today about how we're going to have intelligent electronics, right? So I'm just wondering whether it's going to be heart or the brain, but either way. So what's a journey? So I've been, just to give you a little bit of a story, when I was in school, in the college, I was doing ECE, and ECE was just available in IIT Kharagpur. So I went to Kharagpur. The third year, they introduced computer science. It was the first time computer science came into the curriculum. And probably about 30-40% of my classmates jumped to computer science. I stayed with ECE. And then during the final project, right, the last semester, we were supposed to do a project. And ECE had one software programming language that we need to learn, and it was Fortran. And for some reason, I just liked it. I just enjoyed doing this programming. And so I went to the professor and said, I'd like to take a project in programming. And he said, programming is not for smart guys. So, those days, right, you just listen to the professor. So I didn't take it, but a lot of my other batchmates did. And most of them are millionaires today. You know the history about software, right? And I'm just excited about designing a box. So that was what software was and hardware. So this is how we started, right? It's like discretes, cables, switches, boards, we just lump them together and we create a box. And then it evolved into, once you got the CPU added to it, and then you got other chips, right? So really the ICs, right? Once they started coming in, then now you could program it. So there's a lot more software layers added to it, and the chips got commoditized, and we were able to build large systems. That led to, now that you got these large systems, from standalone systems, now you got clusters, and then you got servers, and then now you got cloud, and with the cloud, now you got access. Right? So now everybody, anywhere, can get access. So the hardware, software, where does all this fit? So being a hardware guy, this is what I like to see. This is what I deal with every day. So we create the system, which I said, it's hard. And then you got all these software guys who ride on top of it, right? They got the firmware, the operating system, and they got middleware, and then the apps on top of it. By the way, I'm not a software guy, so what I'm telling you is just what I heard from people. So the poor cousin is the guy who builds the hardware, right? The chip guys. And then the rich cousin is the guy who sits on top of it and enjoys the benefit. Well, we need to change that, and I think with some of the slides I'm going to show you, probably we're at that point where, that what Wally talked about, maybe the software guys have already reached that point where their growth is not going to happen, but the hardware guys are just starting. So we build the foundation for the industry, the chip industry. Now that led to digitization of all the analog and then made computing faster. You got, we enabled machines to communicate, and most importantly, right, the mobility. However, the chip business got commoditized. You got more and more powerful chips, but we were not getting the monetary benefit out of that. I really think that innovation slowed. Innovation in the chip industry, I think, slowed in the last, I would say, maybe the last 5 to 10 years. Although we were packing more transistors and so forth, right? It doesn't mean that we really had something that I would say is groundbreaking. However, what it's done is, all these years, now we're able to create an environment where we have access to the physical environment. What I mean by that is, where now you could sense the temperature, you could sense the humidity, the vision, and so on. So now you basically get access to the physical environment around you. So if you have a system, right, the system can have access to that. So these are some of those that I listed down here. Now, computing power is available to everyone. Right? Storage is almost free. Connectivity is always on. Knowledge. This is another thing that has happened, right? Now, even in the schools here, right? Even in primary schools, even before they go to secondary high school, people learn programming. Right? They may not learn physics or chemistry or other things, but they learn programming. Right? Most of the kids, we want them to go for programming class as the weekends. They go to the robotics association or robotics classes. Right? So this is and they become really, really smart at doing this. The older generation, especially now, used to be like, if you think about, our parents, right? They would not touch a computer, right? Or they may not even touch a phone, right? A mobile phone, because they're not familiar with it, or there's just some inhibitions. But I would say, right, this generation, maybe our generation, and maybe definitely the generations after us, there's no inhibition at all. There's abundance of tools to learn and get familiar with this. And there's a lot of online help. There's multi-level collaboration going on. There are people from within the country, outside the country, different cities, and you can get especially with Google, YouTube. I mean, you can get anything that you want, especially in this area, right? If you want to understand how communication works or system works, it's there. So that, to me, is created a whole mass of people that have equal opportunity. An equal opportunity to innovate. So we talked about innovation today. So, and we talked about to increase it 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times, right? Whether it's a startup or solutions. And this is I think is what's happening. Some people call that IoT. So what IoT is, in my mind, is that it's trying to solve real problems, right? IoT requires problem solving. It's not just making a chip or just so you're trying to solve a real life problem. A real life problem could be as simple as cattle herding, for example, right? Just getting to find out where all your cattle is. Now that requires understanding of what the problem is. So it's even though IoT is going to be around everywhere, I think it's not that easy unless you understand the problem and you know how to solve the problem. So it's not just the electronics or the communication or the platform. It's understanding the problem and solving it. So who are the early users, and the users, right? So early users are the entertainment, fitness, right? Everybody has got a Fitbit, right? Whether they use it or not. So there's a lot of those kind of things that's out there in the market. Obviously, right, mobility is one of them. Then now you're starting to see exchanging of data. So these are the people, right? So you got gadget nerds, early technology adopters, some people who have background in technology, they want to try something new. And another big factor is those who could afford it. Now what I feel is, now with this proliferation, right? Why hardware and why now? Now you've got universal users. So it's not just a group of 1 or 2% of the population is using it. Now you got universal users. So universal users, you have universal problems, right? So you got it could be a simple problem as a cattle herding or tracking wastage of water, right? I mean, water is a big issue. So if you have a faucet which is just dripping water, and if you're able to track that and fix that, can you imagine the liters and mega liters of water that you'll save? Of course, anything to do with water, right? So hydroponics farming. There's a lot of customization also that happens. I believe, right, when I was in TI or National or Fairchild, the idea was to produce in mass, right, as many chips as possible. But I think the model is now changing where there's going to be a lot more customization. A lot of, I think this was another topic that the Joint Secretary talked about, where there's a fear about all these machines and equipment talking to each other and people's data getting thrown all over the place. So again, right, the hardware is the one that's going to come to that rescue, I believe, where you're going to be burning in or burn the security code into it. And some of this, right, we loosely talk about IoT, But really, if IoT is going to get into the medical, industrial, automotive, like what Wally talked about in the automotive sector, the reliability, the quality, and the performance needs to be really, really high. And finally, we talk about cost. So, my view is the hardware has become very important. And maybe it's time that the poor cousin can also become a rich cousin. So there is hope for hardware. That's my point. So this is just to show you, some of the challenges that we're going to have. We're seeing it. These are real challenges. The packaging has become a real challenge because people are actually buying a system. They're not buying a chip anymore, right? They're buying a system. So there's a lot of challenges there. What I noticed was, you could simulate a chip. The EDA tools are great, but the moment you try to put something on top of it, then the tools and the just slows down tremendously. So there's a lot of opportunities there. There's a lot of issues as well. Now you got to simulate not only a CMOS process, but you got to simulate sensors and resistors, discretes, and thermal, and all kind of stuff. And of course, test is always a challenge. I'd like to highlight a success story in India that I came across. They're actually one of our customers. So I came across this company, Sankhya Labs, right? So most of you might know this company. Very innovative company, and this is all designed and made in India, right? They make chips, they make systems, and it's just amazing. All of this is done in India with very little help. They struggled and made this happen. Could these guys become the next Huawei for India? What needs to be done? These are the questions that I thought should be thrown out for discussions, and obviously the government needs to play a role in that as well. Very impressive company. So I think a lot of speakers talked about this. She talked about this. We're very strong. We have a lot of expertise. She talked about leading edge stuff being done by Intel here. So a lot of Intel guys from the US want to come here. And it's scalable in India. Large market with variety of problems. If you can solve the problems in India, there's so many test cases that that you're able to solve, and that can become a global solution. The business model is also changing, right? I think the opportunities, you need to be big, right, in order to be successful. But I think, you being small could also be a benefit. So, some of this, the environment that we're running into, in my view, could be ideal for India. All those points that's up there, right? It could be ideal for India. And I think the company or the organization that has got the best talent is the one that's going to win. So some thoughts. All know about Infosys. When the IT industry was just at the early stages, they came in, they didn't have any background, they were not from a large Indian business family or anything like that. And they proved themselves, and they're one of the behemoths of the IT sector. Is there an opportunity to create a Huawei or a TSMC here in India? The question also is, do we need to own a TSMC or a Huawei, to enable 1 million Sankhya labs who are fast and innovative. So these are some of the thoughts that I have, and hopefully in the next few sessions and the year we'll have some answers to it. And the last time when I was here, I talked about that I will not retire until we bring some manufacturing to India. I'm still at it. Hopefully some of this would pan out, and some interesting things will happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to request Purnima Shenoy, IESA Executive Council and CEO of the GAIN Global Accelerator, Sagittor Ventures India, to present. I'd like to request Mr. Veerapan to present a small token of our appreciation to Mr. P. Rajamanickam. I'd like to thank you once again, sir, for that keynote.